Disclaimer: this is Lucoland only. Skip this if you're not a shipper. This is purely fictional, no harm intended, manifesting love. Please do not tag or share with Lucola. It was a quiet Friday evening, and Nicola was packing up her things in her trailer after another long day on set, lost in thoughts of how much things had changed. She missed the parties she used to host during their season. Fridays used to mean champagne and enjoyment with the cast and crew, but now all she wanted was to get home, and above all she missed Luke. She missed sharing the makeup trailer with him. Those were times filled with laughter and fun. Now every moment around Luke felt heavy, tinged with a mix of nostalgia and heartbreak. The past weeks had been a whirlwind of emotions, and she had managed to maintain her composure only by keeping her interactions with Luke mostly professional, rekindling their friendship little by little. It had been incredibly difficult. They had just filmed their first intimate scenes as a couple for the new season, and although the professional side of their job was completed, the emotional undercurrent between them lingered. Like a charged atmosphere, Nicola had to keep her emotions in check every time their eyes met. The unspoken history between them was palpable. The way Luke's touch felt against her skin, the warmth of his breath on her face, and the closeness that once felt so natural now sent her heart racing. Each kiss, though scripted, felt like a battle against her own desires. She had to catch herself from slipping into old feelings, holding back the urge to fully immerse herself in the familiar comfort of his embrace. Nicola often felt sad and uneasy in Luke's absence, like a piece of her life was missing. Without him, there was a constant sense of imbalance, as if something crucial was out of place. Luke had always made her feel secure, confident, and grounded. His presence boosted her energy, allowing her to live more fully and embrace happiness. With him, everything seemed lighter. He brought strength into her life that she couldn't find on her own. His support made her feel unstoppable, and being with him just made everything better. She fought hard to maintain her composure, to remind herself that this was just a role, but every scene brought them closer, blurring the lines between performance and the raw emotions that still simmered beneath the surface. She had gathered all strength she had left to endure these first weeks. She had been friendly, and everything went well, but that was it for today. She needed to recharge. She was exhausted. For Luke, watching Nicola from a distance had been a daily torment. He had seen her light up screens and stages, but now she was different with him. He could feel the space that was created between them. She was even more guarded than before. Even when she smiled or looked at him, he knew that she was reserved. It wasn't the same. He missed the carefree way they used to be around each other, the late-night laughs, and the unspoken bond they once shared. But his summer had been full of mistakes, missed opportunities, and an overwhelming realization that Nicola was the one person he couldn't let go of. Luke also had remained professional, friendly, but he was also acting as if nothing had changed, slowly approaching her more and more every day. Before the filming days, Luke's state of mind was a tangled mix of longing, regret, and jealousy, fueled by the glimpses he got of her summer through social media posts. Each update photos with friends and fans, scenic shots from events, and the occasional candid moment, although it filled him with joy, was also like a punch to his gut, reminding him of what he had lost. Seeing her seemingly happy, surrounded by people, made his insecurities flare up. He couldn't help but obsess over every detail, her smiles, the new faces beside her, the places she went. It all felt like a reminder that she was moving on, finding joy and connections without him. Luke's imagination ran wild, envisioning her with someone else, and it drove him to the brink of desperation. His jealousy wasn't just about who she was with, but about the life she seemed to be building without him. A life that, not long ago, he had been a part of. He had called her in the summer, and though their conversations were warm, Nicola kept a noticeable distance. Luke had seen the songs she chose to share online, each lyric and melody feeling like they were meant for him. Her subtle support, the quiet way she showed she still cared, made him fall for her even more deeply. But doubt gnawed at him. He couldn't be sure if the messages were really about him or just wishful thinking. He clung to the hope that there was still a chance for them, but uncertainty loomed large. He didn't know if he still had a place in her heart. Seeing Nicola again during rehearsals and filming hit Luke harder than he expected. She tried to avoid him whenever possible, only spending the bare minimum amount of time required for their scenes or work-related tasks. It felt like a game of cat and mouse. Luke was constantly seeking opportunities to get closer, to reconnect, but Nicola kept slipping away, maintaining her distance and making herself elusive. Each time he thought he had a chance to bridge the gap, she would subtly evade him, retreating before he could truly reach her. He could feel her slipping through his fingers, running away just as he tried to draw near, leaving him frustrated yet more determined to break through her defenses. Her presence stirred a mix of longing and regret inside him. She looked so beautiful, radiant, focused, and guarded, maintaining a polite pal distance that reminded him just how far apart they'd drifted. Every stolen glance, every soft smile she gave to others, reminded him of how he loved. To hear her speak, how much he had missed her scent, the closeness they once shared and now seemed lost. Without her, life was so draining. He felt at ease in her presence. It reminded him how little he had laughed without her. During rehearsals and on set, Luke tried to bridge the emotional gap, using every moment of their scripted closeness as an opportunity to reconnect. He leaned into their scenes, savoring the way her laughter sounded, the familiar touch of her hand in his, and the subtle electric charge that still sparked between them. In unguarded moments, he would linger near her, trying to reignite the warmth and ease they once had, hoping she could feel the sincerity in every look and gesture. He missed her terribly, and being this close again, hearing her voice, feeling her body, only fueled his determination to find his way back into her heart, though he knew it would take time and patience to break through the walls she had put up. Nicola and Luke were cautiously trying to rebuild their friendship, navigating the fragile ground between what they once had and what they now were. Nicola was always supportive of Luke, never letting past wounds interfere with her genuine concern for his well-being. Luke appreciated her maturity, recognizing how she never acted petty or held grudges, but instead offered kindness that reassured him during his moments of self-doubt. He found solace in her presence, feeling a comfort that he had missed deeply, but he could also feel the lingering distance between them. While he cherished their time together, jealousy gnawed at him, especially when he thought about Nicola's close friend, the one she often spent time with, the one he'd seen in social media posts. He wanted to be the one she turned to, her first call, her safe space. The thought of her sharing those moments with someone else stung. Luke realizing with each passing day that he wanted to be more than just a friend to her. He wanted to be her priority, just as he had discovered she was his. The ache in his chest reminded him that, despite all the progress they had made, his feelings for her were far from platonic. Torn between the fear of rejection and the burning need to reconnect, Luke realized he couldn't stand on the sidelines any longer. He had to take the risk, reach out, and try to reclaim what they once had, even if it meant facing the painful truth of her moving on. A sudden knock interrupted Nicola's thought, startling her. Without thinking, she opened the door, expecting a crew member. Instead, there he was, Luke dressed casually with a white t-shirt and black jeans, but the tension in his posture was evident, looking up to her with an expression that she couldn't quite place. His brows were knitted together, jaw tight, and his attempt at a smile seemed strained. She thought to herself, what now? But she was an actress, and she had to be a great one now. Nicola, confident and in good spirits, tilted her head with curiosity. "Luke, what's up?" she asked with a light-hearted chuckle, trying to ease the tension she felt radiating from her insides. "Can we talk?" he asked, his voice tinged with a frustration she hadn't heard from him before. Nicola hesitated, but she said sure, "Come in," stepping aside, gesturing for him to enter. Luke walked in, looking around her trailer as if searching for the right words. He finally turned to her, his eyes not quite meeting hers. "How was the rest of your summer?" he asked abruptly. It was the first personal question he'd asked this week. Nicola raised an eyebrow, caught off guard by his sudden interest. "It was great," she said cautiously, trying to read his mood. "I worked, met some great people, and had a lot of fun." Luke shrugged, avoiding her gaze. "All right, you've seen most of it. I've seen some of yours too," he added, his tone edged with something she couldn't quite place. Luke hesitated before blurting out, "I saw that you were in Malta." Nicola's heart skipped a beat at his words, her defenses rising. "Yeah, well, I've been busy," she started to say, but Luke cut her off, his voice softer now. "Nick," he said gently, and the sound of her name from his lips made her heart lurch. She looked up, meeting his eyes, feeling the familiar pull between them. But she held her ground, not willing to be swayed by his vulnerability. "Are you happy?" he asked, his voice cracking slightly. Nicola blinked, taken aback by the question. Seriously, did he really ask that? Knowing what he did, she was getting angry. Why was he bringing this up now? Luke had already apologized, and that was it. She had thought they had moved past this. Nicola's patience was wearing thin. Anger simmered beneath her calm exterior. How could he ask that now, after everything? She straightened her posture, refusing to let him see how deeply his question rattled her. "Luke, you don't get to ask me that," she said firmly, "not after everything." Luke's mind raced. He knew he had messed up, that he had let his fears and doubts drive a wedge between them. But seeing her with someone else, knowing that she could move on without him, was unbearable. "Answer me, please," he insisted. "I am happy," she answered firmly. "And I'm also exhausted, so if there's nothing else." Luke moved closer, his expression pained. "I need to know." He took a deep breath, his frustration spilling over. "Nick, I can't keep pretending. I've made mistakes, but seeing you with him, it's driving me crazy. I need to know, are you dating him?" Nicola's eyes widened in disbelief. She couldn't believe her ears. He was mad, surely. How did he found the courage to ask that? He may have lost his mind during his summertime. Those Italians and Spanish sunrays are fierce. She pulled back, shaking her head as if trying to wake up from a bad dream. "Luke, this is none of your business. Please, just answer me," he begged, his voice laced with worrying. "Do you love him?" he dared to ask with jealousy in his voice. Nicola's calm facade cracked. "Luke, we work together. I need you to respect my boundaries. You made your choices, and I've made mine. Let's keep it professional." "I can't," he almost screamed. "What?" She replied, dumbfounded. "I must know if you're with him. I can't take this any more." She was incredulous. She decided to go for the door. He stopped her by kneeling in front of her, his frustration bubbled over. "I can't keep this professional anymore," he almost shouted, his voice breaking. Nicola was stunned. In all those years they've worked together, she had never seen him this troubled before. She stared at him, unable to process his words. What do you mean? Nick, I'm really sorry. I should have been honest with her from the start, and I regret how things turned out after the premiere. That day was meant to be about us, and I ruined it. I was afraid to end things with her because everything was happening so fast, and I had already made a commitment, thinking we wouldn't get there. I couldn't handle the situation, and I'm truly sorry. I know it's late, but I wanted to apologize again, deeply and sincerely. Nicola was totally at a loss for words, moved by the sincerity in his voice. Thank you for saying that. It's very nice of you. Are you dating him? He asked again, cutting her speech. Why would you need that information? I miss you, he said, his voice raw with emotion. I messed up, Nick. I thought I could handle it, but I can't. I ended things because I realized you're the one. I've missed you every single day, and I can't stand the idea of you with someone else. Nick, I thought I could, but I can't pretend anymore. I want you. Nicola's heart pounded in her chest. She dreamed of hearing those words, but now they felt like too little, too late. Luke, you can't just show up and... Luke stood up, towering her totally as she wasn't wearing heels. I want to know if you're single because... I want to date you. I ended things with her. I'm tired of this Ross and Rachel bullshit. I was miserable. I missed you so much all summer. I thought that I was going crazy. My world was upside down. It turned darker every day. Everything seemed boring and irrelevant when I was not with you. Everything was tasteless and useless. You make my life so much better. Nicola was stunned, speechless. She was staring at him, disarmed by his words. Her eyes softened as she saw the genuine pain in his. But she couldn't let go of her own hurt. No, she simply said, I was scared, and I pushed you away when I should have pulled you closer. But I've realized you're the one. You've always been the one, he said, moving closer to her. Nicola, I know I've made mistakes, but I want to be better for you. I want to be the person who makes you happy, who supports your dreams and never holds you back. You deserve someone who lifts you up, and I'm ready to do that. I'm committed to growing, to being the kind of partner who enriches your life, not complicates it. Let me prove that I can be the person who stands by your side through everything, who helps you find peace and joy. I want us to be something real, something strong. Nicola felt her defenses crumbling, but she held her ground. Luke, you can't just show up and expect everything to go back to how it was. You broke my heart, and I've worked hard to put the pieces back together. I think it's best if we just stay friends. I know, Luke said, his eyes filled with regret. But I want to fix it. I want to be more than a friend. I want us. She turned away, trying to collect her thoughts. The weight of his words was heavy, pulling at her resolve. You hurt me, she whispered, her voice thick with emotion. I don't know if I can trust you with my heart again. Luke's heart sank. He wanted to take back every missed opportunity, but he couldn't change the past. All he could do was prove himself now. I'm willing to do whatever it takes, he said earnestly. I want you, Nicola. Only you, he said, moving closer to her. Nicola looked at him, her expression torn between hope and caution. Her eyes filled with tears, torn between her love for him and the pain he'd caused. She had missed him too, more than she cared to admit. But she wasn't going to make it easy for him. She wasn't ready to give up on them either. We'll see, she said finally, her voice a mix of guarded optimism and lingering doubt. But you'll have to prove it. Luke nodded, knowing he had a long road ahead. Don't date another man. I'm yours, the only one, he added with conviction. His expression changed. His eyes darkened, a mixture of determination and desperation. He stepped closer, his eyes locked on hers. She backed against the wall, expecting his advance. The air between them crackled with unresolved tension. He gently lifted her chin, forcing her to fixate on his gaze. She saw the depth of his feelings, the intensity that had been missing. "Don't speak," he whispered, his voice low and commanding. "I'm done going back and forth, I'm done waiting for the right time. I need you now." He pressed his body against hers, his hands pinning her wrists against the wall. She let out a small sound, a mix of surprise and longing. His touch was electrifying, sending shivers down her spine. He leaned in and kissed her left cheek, his hand caressing her other cheek. "I want to be yours," he said gruffly, "and I want you to be mine," he murmured in her ear. He moved a little to see her face, his eyes searching hers for any sign of resistance. She could feel her resolve melting, her body responding to his nearness. "Please," she whispered, her voice barely audible, filled with need. He leaned even more, wanting to capture her lips with his. She parted hers delicately, the kiss started soft and slow, but it quickly turned voracious. She responded eagerly, deepening the kiss, her hand roaming through his curly hair. His moan vibrated against her lips, and he pulled her closer, his hands wandering about freely on her body, his hand grabbing her breasts, his lips kissing her everywhere with voraciousness. He was hungry of her. They moved to the sofa, still lost in each other. Nicola put her hands on his bum. He growled with pleasure. She straddled him, their connection electric, both smiling and chuckling despite the intensity. For a moment, everything else faded away, leaving only the two of them, rewriting the stars one kiss at a time.